Hello, welcome, and good morning. It is Wednesday morning, 8 a.m. here in beautiful Springfield, Missouri. 9 a.m. in your neck of the woods there, David, huh?
It's 9 a.m. in New York.
And we have Ellen Violette on 3-Day MBA. MBA stands for Masters of Business Academy. And she woke up really early to be with us today. As it's just approaching the 6 o'clock hour there. It is 6 o'clock now. So you can do the math, as David likes to say, as far as where you're tuning in from, of whatever time it is where you are at. We want to say thank you for tuning in. This is a Facebook Live for the 3-Day MBA. And basically what we do is we talk with different business awesomenalities, I guess we could call them, to learn more about how we can improve our own business, whether it's marketing or sales or relationships or pretty much anything. And I'm just thankful that you guys are here. If you want to go learn more, you can go to 3daymba.net. And David, how's everything?
It's great. Good morning, Jamie. Let's just get to it. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Ellen Violette. Ellen is an award-winning book and business coach. She helps authors, entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, trainers, speakers become a #1 best-selling author and market their books to grow their businesses and reach their highest potential without stress and overwhelm. Ellen works with busy movers and shakers who value their time as well as personal service and don't want to spend months or years writing a book. Ellen is a multiple international #1 best-selling author, 3-time ELIT award winner, a former regular contributor to Publish Magazine, CEO of Create a Splash, and Grammy-nominated songwriter. She uses her own creative spirit and business knowledge to help her clients differentiate themselves and their books, to think outside the box and increase their reach and their impact. Ellen, welcome to 3-Day MBA. It's great to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So Ellen, why is it important for a business to be supported by a book?
There are a lot of reasons. For one thing, the word author comes from the word authority, and people look up to people who write books because most people want to write a book. I think it's like 81% or something, and most people never will. So they see it as this, great achievement, which it is. And the thing that's so great about a book is that it's low entry for people to get in, and it gives you an opportunity to show what you can do, and you can reach a very large audience, and it opens doors to opportunities that people wouldn't get otherwise. I mean, I'm just amazed at some of the opportunities that people get, like my clients, once they've written a book that they didn't have before. So that's what I think.
So as you're thinking about writing a book, if you, assuming you're part of this 81%, and you are thinking about writing a book, and you realize that it can be really helpful to your business, what's the first thing you should do?
The first thing that people should do, and most people don't do, and this was the thing that caught your attention when we were on another call, is the fact that what you should do is do the marketing research first to make sure that there's an audience for your book, because there's nothing more upsetting than spending all this time writing a book and finding out nobody wants to buy it because you didn't connect with any audience in a meaningful way. So that's what I always tell my clients. And if they come to me and they've already written their book, then I make them go back and we do the marketing research immediately before I'll do anything else. Because, what you have to do is realize that, there are a lot of books. It doesn't really matter what your topic is. There are going to be a lot of books at this point on Amazon. And you need to see what else is out there, so you make sure you're not just being a clone of something else.
Even though 81% of the people haven't written a book yet, there's still a lot of books.
I think Ellen froze.
Uh-oh. Are you there, Ellen? It must be pretty cold where she's at.
Could very well be.
We'll see if she can connect here.
Yeah.
Have you written a book?
I have not written a book.
Is that something in your future?
Yes, it is.
Wow, good for you.
How about you?
I have not. I would love to, absolutely love to. It looks like Ellen has dropped off, so I'll watch for her to come back on.
Yeah, you and I certainly spoken with lots of authors,
Oh my gosh.
both on this show and on our own podcasts.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what it is? It's hard. You just don't know. I don't know. Why haven't you? I'm so surprised you haven't written a book. You seem like, because you are so detail oriented, you always have your stuff done. It just seems like I'm actually really surprised you don't have a book yet. And I know there's one, if not more, in there.
Yeah, I am currently working with someone on the very early stages of my first book.
Oh, that's interesting.
But you're right, and the reality is, it's probably not the first thing. My go-to is not to sit down and write.
Yeah.
My go-to generally is to make some sketchy notes and talk to people.
Yeah. But I can understand that. Do you? I know there's different ways of doing this. Do you think, when you write your book, you're actually going to write it, or are you going to find somebody maybe to help you write it, where they come and interview you and then they put it together? What are you thinking is probably going to be the best way for you?
As of now, I'm writing it myself.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and my consultant is helping me structure it and giving me feedback.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Huh. So you're sitting down. Do you have a goal, like how many words a week or a day, a month, anything like that?
Not yet. Not yet.
I'm wondering if that's a good way to break it down.
If I wanted to have it done by a certain date, then yes.
But you don't have a deadline. You're just kind of.
No. It's getting done, sort of in with some ebb and flow.
Explain that.
Well, like my podcast and like this show, there's a schedule to it, and so there are deadlines. Like for this show, we have to show up every Wednesday morning and do it. For my podcast, and I'm sure yours is the same, right now we're releasing one episode a week. Our show comes out every Sunday morning. So I have to make sure that whatever pre-release steps need to be done, that they're all done in order for the show to actually go live every Sunday morning. So there are deadlines. With the book, I have not set a deadline for myself that I want it to be out by a certain date. Yeah, and if I had a deadline, it would be a different story. And the other thing is, I would need to have a reason for the deadline.
I gotcha. Well, it looks like Ellen is back. Well, you know what? I should hold you to that. We should have a deadline for you.
Okay.
Oh, hey, Ellen, welcome back. You're on mute there.
Sorry about that. That has never happened ever.
Oh, no problem. It's probably because it's so early there that the internet connection isn't as stable as if it was during business hours.
Maybe the internet is sleepy where you are.
Yeah, I guess.
Well,
anyway,
we were talking about the market research for the book.
Yeah, I was in mid-sentence.
Yeah, I was actually thinking. I wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Which is, you mentioned that some people come to you and they already have a book done, and you make them go back and do the market research. I wondered if there might be a story that you could share of someone who ended up making some major changes as a result of doing market research after writing the book.
Oh yeah. Well, those story I was telling you was well, I don't know that they're major. I mean, sometimes they have to go back and just scrap it and start over. Um, I had somebody come to me and they wanted to write a book about being fearless, and at that point anyway, books about being fearless really were not selling. And I said, what people are looking for are overcoming fears, overcoming anxiety. I think maybe people don't believe that anyone is really fearless. And so they just had to kind of scrap it and take a different direction. But what I was saying about the other one was, it sounded like it was the same, and it wasn't the same, but they didn't know how to say it in a way that people would get that it was different. So they had to go back and change the title or the subtitle or both, just to get that in there. Or this woman who came to me and her book was about the afterlife, and in her mind it was about death. So her keyword was death, and people were not going to buy her book under death because that wasn't what it was about. So you have to be careful that that your title and your subtitle actually say what your book is and not what it isn't, And then other times people get in their mind what the title is and what the book is, and the title makes no sense to anybody but them. And, because if somebody comes to me and I don't get a title, the first thing I'll say to them is, what does this mean? What's your title about? And then they'll give me a whole big long explanation about what their title's about. And I'll say to them, guess what? People don't have cliff notes. You're not there to explain your title. So it has to be clear to people. And sometimes people don't make the connection because they're so immersed in that topic and in their book that they don't realize there's a disconnect.
Yeah, sometimes I see titles for books, especially in business, that Ryan Levesque, choose. Right? What the heck does that mean?
Well,
Right?
it's like Blink. That was a huge hit, Blink, but they explained it in the subtitle.
Yeah, I guess
I think it's how to think without thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have a title like that, you can get away with it if you explain it in your subtitle. But if you don't explain it, then nobody's going to get it. Gotcha.
You mentioned doing some market research early on. This is interesting to me because a lot of business leaders, they do well in their business, and they love it and they understand it. They get it. That's what makes them tick. But a lot of, and I'll include me in this, a lot of us, we may kind of understand marketing because we kind of had to do that. But when you talk about market research, can you give us some examples of maybe some starting points so that if we were to go say, hey, Ellen, I have this great idea for a book. Where do I get started? When you talk about do the market research, what is that? Maybe break it down a little bit.
Yeah. It means make a list of all the words that you think your audience would look up if they were looking for your book. First of all, I use Word Tracker, wordtracker.com, and it's free. As long as you don't put in too many words in one day, you can just do free. You can, if you have a lot of words, you can do it over 2 or 3 days. And then I go into Amazon and I take each of those words and I put them in the search bar. And the first thing I do is I look for bestsellers, see if there are any bestsellers in that, under that search word. And if there are bestsellers, then that tells you right away that they're selling and you don't really have to go much farther. When I work with clients, so I do have my own methodology that I go deeper into it. I look at the Amazon rankings, I look at the category rankings, and I just figure out which are going to be the best words to use. But that's really how you do it. But I always tell people, if you're doing it on your own, just start with looking for bestsellers. That's the easy way.
So you look so you go to Word Tracker, and then and the Word Tracker, you type in some of the words that describe the topic that you're writing about. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And how long does it? This is a question from our audience. David just posted. how long does it take to write a book? That's a freaking great question.
Yeah. Thank you, Sean McKay, for asking the question.
Well, in 2004, I created a workshop where I taught people how to do it in 3 days.
What?
I know people always say that. The workshop, I've taught it now 30 times since 2004. And I've had people write a book in 3 days and actually have it on Amazon the next day. And I've had other people take the workshop and they didn't get their book up for 5 years. So, I mean, you know, the information is there. If you follow it, you can do it really fast. Some people can and some people just can't, you know, or they start and they feel like, well, sometimes what people will do is they start and then they get to a point where they go, well, I'm not really feeling this. And I'll say to them, well, if you're halfway done or more, finish it anyway. You don't have to feel it. You know, you put the work in, just do it. If they're, you know, having trouble really getting started because of that, then I'll just say, well, you know, pick another topic. Some people just absolutely have to be passionate about what they're doing and other people can just power through it. You know.
Wow.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
He said he spoke, Sean Patrick McKay. He said he spoke to an author who told him it was 400 hours each to write his 2 books. He blocked out 10 hours a week to do it in about a year.
Was it fiction or nonfiction?
That's a good question.
I teach nonfiction.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not
fiction,
sure.
Fiction is a whole nother thing.
Yeah. So this is so nonfiction business,
Nonfiction,
things like that.
yeah.
Now, do you ever do any kind of do you ever, and what do you think of like business books written as parables, maybe, or you know,
Hey, you can
stories?
write it how whatever works that people are going to relate to. I mean, there's no one way to do it. You know, what is that book? Oh, I'm having a senior moment.
The Alchemist.
No, there's a book. Oh, Code, one of those Millionaire Code or something. Maybe it's the Millionaire Code, where one side has the nonfiction and then the other side has the parable through the whole book. So
That's interesting.
yeah, so it's doing both.
So you can make you can take a choice.
Yeah, but the whole thing is, I mean, one of the things I love about writing is creativity. You know, there are no rules. I mean, it's like it's whatever works, but
the rules are there are no rules.
Right, except to get feedback once you've done it to see if people get it. I mean, if they don't get it, that's the only rule. You know, is you won't sell books if people don't get it.
So here's another question from Sean. What metrics would you look for during the research phase?
Well, that's what I was saying is when I look at metrics, I'm looking at, well, in Word Tracker, people think that they're looking at clicks. They're not looking at clicks. They do something called volume. So really what you're looking at is how one stacks up against another, partly. And then the other thing is if it's got like 100,000, I look at it 100,000 down to about 50,000 when it starts, and sometimes 33,000. If it goes below that, it's not good usually. But I did have one instance I remember where it was only like 14,000, but it was huge in Amazon. So I mean, there are no specific rules. There's just kind of guidelines, you know, about that. And then in Amazon, as I was saying, you know, I look at the Amazon ranking. So for instance, if you're 0, I guess, or 1 to 5,000, you're selling a ton of books like that, you know, hundreds of books every single day. If it's 5,000 to 10,000, it's a little bit less, you know, 10,000 to 20,000, up to 50,000, you're still selling about, you know, 1 a day. When it gets past that, it's more intermittent. And actually, like when we're doing bestseller launches, I can tell somebody if it's going to be a bestseller before I ever even do it, because all I'm doing is I look at the numbers and I know what we've been able to do. So we've gotten as low as like 300. So if I look at a book and it says the #1 book is at ranking of 6,000, I know I'm going to make it a #1 bestseller. You know, if it's 1,000, I know I'm going to make it a #1 bestseller. So I just look at the numbers.
When is the best time to approach you?
Before they write the book.
And then
thank you for asking, because that's the thing, you know, most people wait. And I'm like, No. What?
So the best time is, so I'm kind of kicking around, right? I'm
Yeah.
kicking around the idea of writing this book. David's kicking around the idea of writing his book.
Uh-huh.
And like we were just having a conversation when you were coming back online,
Right.
and like David's unbelievably detailed. His follow-up is impeccable. He's always got, everything is done well. And then I asked, are you writing a book? He's like, yeah. But the thing is, unlike my podcast or like we do here, we have deadlines set for everything. I don't have deadlines set for my book. I'm kind of the same way, right? Or, well, I'm not even close to his level of detail and follow-up, but
Yeah.
I really want to write a book, but do I really? Because I really haven't made it a priority.
Right.
So
Well,
is that something that you do, is help out with that accountability?
Yeah, you just hit the nail on the head. Motivation. Yeah, I mean, you have to make it a priority. With whatever you do, it has to be the priority. And to make it the priority, it's like, why do you want to do this? I mean, I worked with a client, and we actually got him to #1 in 6 categories. And he was saying that he had to get the book done because there were all these opportunities, and he felt he couldn't get them until he had the book. And so he was really motivated to get the book done. And now I just saw that he's speaking at a live event. And so I said, how did this help? And he goes, oh, it was a game changer.
Wow.
So it's seeing that it's a game changer. J. Conrad Levinson once said he made $36,000 from his book and $964,000 from all the other opportunities he got. So if you understand what the opportunities are and there's something that you want, then you'll make it a priority.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Well said.
Yeah. Thank you.
It is well said. So what's the best way to get started?
The best way to get started with me, or just to get started?
With you to get started, to help. Could you help with accountability? You help with motivate. I mean, I'm
absolutely.
assuming.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, what I've done is I've created my business in such a way that I can help people with whatever they need. I mean, it's a full service company. Like we do editing, we do formatting, publishing, bestseller launches, writing books, helping people market. I mean, whatever it is that they need, we can jump in at any point. It's just, I prefer to jump in at the beginning because it's then usually going to be less expensive. Because what happens is when people try to do it themselves, I had a woman come to us and she had, tried to do this design of her book inside and it wasn't formatted right. So we basically had to take it apart before we could put it back together. And then it ends up being way more expensive. Or if people, have done that and then they have a title that they love or, like, and they go and have a book cover made and then they come to me and I say, no, that doesn't work. It's a lot harder to get people to change once they've spent money on something, #1. And #2, the longer they've been sitting with it, the more they feel connected to it, like, attached to it, I should say.
Yeah.
And then it's harder.
Ellen, how do people get in touch with you if they want to learn more?
They can go to www.booksbusinessabundance.com and there's a contact there. Or they can message me in Facebook. That's I always see those. Don't text me, please, because sometimes I don't see them for days.
It's so funny.
Loves text. I don't like text.
Yeah, what's funny is about 7 years ago, when I first met my now wife, which is still strange for me to say. I'm absolutely stoked that I can say wife, but
yeah.
So 7 years ago, she was texting me when we first met. I did not text. And it wasn't until, maybe several years later that she said, I thought you weren't returning my text because you didn't want to see me. And I was like, I didn't know what texting was. Like, I didn't text back in the day. And I thought it was so funny. And now here I am.
One of the things I hate about text is it just because it's a phone number. And then I'll have to go, who is this? Because most of the times people don't even say who they are and they just start texting me. And I'm going, I don't know who this is.
Yeah. So don't text. Don't text, Ellen.
No text.
Awesome. Awesome. David, do you have anything else?
Yeah, if you have any thoughts about writing a book, get in touch with Ellen.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So Ellen, we're getting ready to wrap up here. And what I really, and I can't thank you enough.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's nice because I personally am one of my good friends you've worked with, and you did a fantastic job, and his book was incredible, and so yeah, I know you do good work, so thank you so much for stopping by. At the end of our episodes, or at the end of the Facebook Live, we usually like to talk about somebody that we're grateful for, and it could be anything. And so I wanted to start it off this week and say that I am grateful for my good friend, Christopher Lochhead, for everything that he's doing. And a big, huge congratulations to him for his show, Follow Your Different. It's a podcast, and he just fell into the top 20. I think he got as high as 23 on Chartable, and he made the top 200 in all of Apple Podcasts, which is a huge feat for him. For anyone, he's in the top 5% of all podcasts, 750,000 of them. He's in the top 5%, and he's inching his way forward to get even better. He for a moment was outranking Oprah, which was pretty amazing. And so I just wanted to say a big shout out to him. Congratulations. And he's just fantastic. And David, I didn't know if you had anybody, and also he's the author of Niche Down, which Ellen, you helped him with, and
Yes,
it's a fantastic book. So hats off to him and congratulations. David, did you have anybody that you wanted to give a shout out to?
Well, I'll add congratulations to Christopher. Yeah, I know him as well, and he does a fantastic job with his work. So yeah, same there. But I wanted to mention Sean McKay, who's been watching this morning. Sean actually bailed me out of a complicated web development situation a number of years ago. He did a great job, and he is now he's now offering a free weekly group coaching call to help business owners that have non-sales staff doing sales, to help them get their non-sales staff to turn leads into appointments. So if you have a small business where you manage non-sales people, and you are they end up being the first sort of line connecting with leads, you want them to be able to do a better job turning those leads into appointments. And his free weekly group coaching call is every Thursday at 12 noon Eastern time.
That's fantastic. That's a great idea. Ellen, do you have anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to?
I do. But first, I would like to say, if people want to get started and they're not ready to come talk to me to listen to the podcast, I've got some great interviews at the Books Business Abundance podcast. I've talked to Susan Harrow about how to get a 6-figure book advance. I've talked to Tom Sylvester about how to organize your business, how to get 100 podcasts as a guest in a year. I mean, just some really great stuff. And it's Christopher Lochhead Day. Because as you said, Christopher is a client of mine. It's awesome that he's done amazingly well with the podcast. I'm so proud of the book. And he also just sent me another amazing client that I'm working with now. We're doing a book that's tied to a movie. So it's really exciting.
That's fantastic. Yeah, he's amazing. And what a privilege and honor to know him and be a friend.
I agree.
And all of that stuff. So
yeah.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to say, Ellen, before we wrap?
I would just like to say that people make it a lot harder than it is, because you see people, it's like exactly what you said. Oh, it took, what did he say? A year to write the book. Yeah. I mean, I've written like a basic book in a day or 2 days, and then just, flush it out later. But what I would say is, don't judge while you're writing. and don't do research first. And I don't mean marketing research, I mean book research. Because what people do is they'll say, oh, I'm going to write a book, so I'm going to start researching it. And they don't have an outline yet. They don't really know what they need to go in the book. And they start researching, and the research gets out of control because it's like it becomes its own, it snowballs, oh, well, this and that and the other. And then what they end up with is, tons of notes that are so overwhelming that they're just immobilized. So, those are the main things that I would say. It's like, just write your first draft, just get out of your head and just get down what you know, and then go back and do it later, but, and start with an outline. I mean, I've never heard anybody who writes quickly say they didn't use an outline ever. So that's what I say.
So start with an outline and then just get everything out of your head and
right after you've done the marketing research. It's like, do the marketing research first to make sure there's a market for it and how you're going to position it, and then create the outline, and then do the brain dump, and then start filling it in. That's really the fast way to do it. And then, you don't have to write it. If you feel like you're not a writer, you can talk. We all know how to talk. We don't edit when we talk. We just talk.
Yeah.
So that's another thing.
Sometimes I wish I could edit when I talk.
Yeah, me too. So Jamie, how many books have we done already on this show?
Oh my God.
Lots of talking, right?
Lots of talking. We
well,
probably
you
have
may
a couple
have a
of
book.
books, right?
Yeah, you probably do have books. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. I have this one book called Real Easy eBooks, 8 Ways to Write or Repurpose Content into a Bestseller. And I mean, there's a million ways to write books. You can take it from videos, you can take it from articles, you can take it from podcasts. You may have enough for a book already and not even know it. And sometimes people will do, Q&A books. I mean, if you're a coach and you do a lot of Q&As, like you were just saying that he was going to do, Sean was going to do a live call. People ask the same questions over and over. I mean, I've been doing this 15 years, and I can tell you the top 10 questions people have asked me for the last 15 years. It never changes.
Wow. Yeah. I and David, I don't know. I have 300 episodes of podcast episodes. How many do you have?
Close to 500.
Yeah, you can take them and transcribe them and put them into sections of things that are connected, and you got a book. Or the best of. Take the best of.
Ooh, it's all kinds of ideas.
Yeah.
Well, Ellen, thank you so much for tuning in. David, do you want to bring us home?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ellen, and thanks for watching this. We will be back here next Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central, 6 a.m. Pacific. And as Jamie says, do the math, and you can figure out what time it is where you are. Our guest next week will be Howard Jacobson from Well Start Health. He is a health coach and educator. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation. So that's Wednesday, August 14th. And I think that's a wrap.
Fantastic.
Thank you to my co-host, Jamie J. Thanks again, Ellen Violette, for being our guest today. We'll see you next week.
Thanks. It was great to see you again.
Have a great one.